All right, day 3 in the workshop, working on the knife again. It is got a rough shape. We need to take off a lot of this edges. It is way too thick, but spring steel is really hard to move. So what I'm going to be doing is spending most of the day grinding this down, making it a lot thinner so that it's actually usable as a kitchen knife. And then we're going to quench it, we're going to harden it, and then temper it, and then all we got to do left is a handle. So let's get into it.
Hello, it's Editing Yves here from the future. I'm just going to give you a little bit of voiceover just to see exactly what I'm doing, making hopefully a little bit more exciting for you guys, a little bit more information. So basically all I'm doing here is making sure that the blade is straight, dunking it every once in a while, make sure it doesn't get too hot, and going from there. You can see me holding it, dunking it pretty quickly in the bucket. It gets pretty hot when you're grinding, so I switch my hands around so that my fingers don't get burned. You'll notice I go and I'm holding it with the edges of my knuckles there, just pushing it against it, and then go back to my thumb because it gets really hot and you really don't want to hurt yourself. Right there I was just kind of adjusting the actual belt because it shifts left and right a little bit, and I noticed it was shifting a little bit more to one side, so I was fixing it. I'm not exactly sure what I was doing there. Pretty sure I was just checking my phone. Hope you enjoy this little bit of a change. It's a little different than what I did in my last 2 videos. I figure this might be a little bit more exciting for some people who are trying to learn and see exactly what I'm doing. So if you do, then I'll keep going it this way. If not, then I'll just go right back to the music. A little bit of a cut there. Not too much happened. I'm pretty sure I just went on and turned the forge on. I use it as heat when it's hot outside or when it's cold out in the workshop. So just turning it on a little bit lets me stop dying from cold because it is quite brisk outside right now in November. It's like 2 degrees Celsius this morning, so the workshop got really cold. So you might be asking why I didn't just forge it a little bit thinner, and usually I would, but I usually start with also a thinner piece of bar stock in order to start my knife. For some reason I wanted to use spring steel for this one, and the spring steel I've got is super thick. It's like 1 inch thick, and it is just impossible to forge it down to that thin to actually use it as a knife. I tried with the forge press as much as I could. I tried thinning it down just with the hammer, but it just takes forever, and this is just honestly faster. There's a fun little thing. I pushed a little bit too hard, and the belt actually came off and whacked me right in the face. I figured, oh, that was maybe the belt's just getting old. I should replace it, put a new one on anyway. Maybe it'll grind a little bit better. And spoiler alert, it happens again. I was just pushing a little bit too hard on it. It slipped right off the machine. Thankfully, it doesn't hurt. I'm wearing a full protective face mask. And that thing, I mean, it's just a light little belt full of sand and some glue. I don't know exactly what they make or how it's made of, but yeah, so it just whacked me in the face, and I replace it and keep going. All right, then finally, I got one side the way I wanted it. I'm just testing there to see if it's nice and flat, and it was. So then I switch on to the other side. And basically, I'm spending the next 45 minutes of real time doing the exact same thing I did on the other side. But for you guys, it'll just be a couple of minutes. I think I'll stop the voiceover here and then add some music in. Oh, there's the belt going again. Slapping me right in the face. I caught it this time. I was impressed with myself. I go put it back on. I adjust it a little bit more and make sure that won't happen again. And thankfully it doesn't for the rest of the grind. So I'll put on some music and we'll see once there's something different to talk about. Alright, so right here I'm just shaping the tang a little bit more, making sure it's right, making sure the shoulders of the knife are actually on the right spot as each other. You want those to be level so that you have a nice even area. I mean, you don't need it, but it looks nice. And then I'm just grinding down the edge of that tang, making sure there's no raised areas, making sure there's no bumps, and it's nice and flat. And yeah, now I'm done, and on to the next step, which is just light little forging just to make sure it is nice and flat. I use a piece of old angle iron because that's the flattest thing I could possibly get, and I just make sure that I get it as flat as I possibly can. And this is the fun stuff. So I'm just heating up the knife, making sure it goes through a couple of normalization cycles. I think some people also call it annealing. I'm not exactly sure. So I just go back and forth, do that a couple times, and then you'll see I take out a little magnet, that red thing that I've got on the table. A nice little trick for knowing when you've actually got the steel hot enough is to put a magnet on it, and right at the spot where it's not magnetic anymore, that's when you know it's hot enough to quench. And there we go, perfect quench. I was super happy I didn't hear any pinging, any tinging in there, and now I'm just going with the file. I opened up the workshop door because it was super smoky, and I'm just going on the file, checking everything, making sure it's all good, and it was. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed this voiceover. If you did, I'll do it again. If not, then I'll just go right back to music. Let me know.
All right. Whew. Man, my forehead's hot. It's hard. No cracking, barely any warping. I can grind that out. Next step is tempering it so that it doesn't shatter if I drop it on the ground. Really all that entails is putting it in the oven for a couple of hours, a couple cycles at like 400-ish degrees. Basically what it does is it helps realign the crystals in the metal so that instead of being basically like this, they're a little bit more overlapped and a little bit staggered, so that instead of when it falls it just breaks and snaps like this, it has a little bit more give and more flexibility. So I think that's all really I can do today. Now that it's hard, all I have to do left is temper it, finish the grinding, put an edge on it, handle, and then I'm finished. So I guess I'll see you back when I'm ready for the handle.